If you are watching today, we are going to be talking to Dave. He's going to give us some insight about first time home buying. So go ahead and introduce yourself for the people.
All right, my name is Dave, David, whatever you want to call me. From Miami, Florida. I'm a nurse and also a Navy veteran of 13 years so
Thank you
far.
for your service. I love how you said so
I
far.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so you're here today because you bought a home not too long ago, and I know you
hmm
had a journey with that, and it was unique because you bought a new construction home. So, can you share with
hmm
us your journey in buying a home? But before you do that, I want you to describe that journey in one word.
Surprising.
Okay, so hopefully you'll dive into why surprising once you tell us your story. So, talk to us.
Yeah. All right. So lived in Miami. My girlfriend at the time said that we needed a bigger house. I have two stepkids, and she said that the house was just getting too small for everybody, so we needed a bigger space. So she had told me about this place that she had been interested in, and we went to check it out. I was impressed with the sales pitch, and I had a lot of inhibition about going and seeing what all this was about. But after the sales pitch, I was surprised at how convinced I was to go ahead with the process. And I use surprising as a word because both good and bad, and we can dig into both of those as the conversation goes on.
So, in terms of like space, right? I think a lot of people, when they think about the idea of buying a house, they're like, oh, we can just grow into this, or oh, this is small now, but it'll suffice. So, in your situation, you're saying like you guys needed the space. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it was four people, and if you know anything about Miami, Miami's crazy. The prices are high and the square footage is low. So, uh, yeah, we it was four of us, and we needed more room. So
So,
we found a new construction, more space, and jumped on it.
and not in Miami, right? Like you guys left Miami.
We did leave Miami, not too far, but we left.
So I think one thing that I definitely want to talk about is like the expectations versus reality. So, we're from Miami. We expect things to look a certain way, or we know like that dynamic. So, by you guys leaving, what was it that you were expecting versus what you actually saw?
Um, well, Miami's an extreme case. So and leaving Miami, going anywhere is different. And then we actually moved up to like the Palm Beach area, and it's very different from what Miami is. You can walk down the street in Miami and hear 10 different languages before you hear English. If and anywhere outside of that is not that way. So we kind of knew what we were getting into. We're not necessarily in the city. We moved out a little west, if you know anything about Florida, and it's a lot more quiet, a lot more room, not as busy, a little bit more friendly. It's definitely a change, but we love it. We love
So,
it.
like true suburban living, would you say?
Yeah. Um, for people that know about the Palm Beach area, it's a very like equestrian community. So if that tells you anything about where we're living now, it's a lot different from what people think of Miami.
Love it. So the people who watch my channel are usually going to be traveling to Florida. So when they think Florida, they either think about what they see on TV, which is like there's a lot of land and you can just put a house on there, which we all know that's not the case unless you're living very far away from stuff. Or they think South Beach, like in the movies, and everybody lives by the beach. So setting the expectation like there's a lot that Florida has to offer, and you can get a suburban lifestyle here.
Hmm.
All right, so let's talk about the decision. Like, at what point did you and your wife decide that, like, you know what, we need to get this house, this specific house?
Well, I was hesitant for, I mean, just to begin, I was hesitant because I was still in nursing school. So I was like, hopefully our credit is good enough or we have enough saved up to, assets or whatever it is to make this happen while I was in nursing school. Um, but it's difficult because the earlier you jump on buying a house, the better deal you're going to get. If you say, "Oh, I'm going to wait a year," then it just gets more expensive. The interest rates go up. I mean, the interest rate's a gamble. We can dig into that later too, but um, sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down, but the prices are typically always going to go up of the house. So I had to make a decision of, are we just going to try to make it work or wait another year before we feel like we're ready and then have to pay another 100 grand on a house? Because, I mean, that's how fast prices are going up.
So I love that you mentioned that. We have this phrase where it's like it's cheaper when it's dirt. Like you don't quite
Yeah.
see the vision just yet, but it's definitely the best time to get in there. And you talked about being in nursing school. So can you kind of walk us through, like, it sounds like maybe there was like, is there a possibility for some anxiety, like doing this process on top of being in school, on top of starting a new life somewhere else? Like, what were your emotions going through this process?
Oh yeah, I had to pass, could not fail. And when you're in nursing school or any professional school, I'm guessing, it's difficult. So I would see colleagues or students of mine fail out from a test and they have to repeat a semester, a term, and I didn't have the time. I had to be out of nursing school, out of Miami, in Palm Beach as soon as possible. So I couldn't slack on my studies. I had to get my stuff together, and we had deadlines to make, and I had to graduate school before we got into the house.
So what about, like, did you have anything that encouraged you, like, outside of your timelines, like anything that was like, you know what, like, I'm going to be a proud homeowner, like this is worth it? Or were you just like, yeah, no, this sucks?
You hear about all the benefits of buying a home, and that's obviously a motivation. The equity, the asset, all the things you can do to your home, the pros and cons versus buying over renting. So all those were motivators. And I was a first time homeowner. My wife now, she actually inherited a home from family, so a little different from her for her, but still it was our first time, especially together, going into the process of buying a new home. We never done new construction before, so but we knew we didn't want to fix anything either. That's why we wanted new construction.
So, like, when you guys went through the process of new construction, was that something that was easy for you all? Because, those are two different opinions. And I know sometimes when we work with couples, one person has one idea of doing things, and another person has another idea, and it can be somewhat um, tedious of a process to come to a conclusion. So, what was that like for you guys?
Um, I mean, if you have an unlimited budget, then it's all easy, right? So the hardest part was like yeah, managing the money, putting it into the things we wanted to upgrade versus what we didn't care for versus what we decided we would do later, and picking everything for the new construction is kind of difficult too. Like they should have a program or something like that online where you can see everything you're piecing together, but they don't. So they just show you the floor, and then they show you the wall paint, and then different tiling or whatever, and you have to have like the imagination to say, okay, this is what all this looks like together, right?
Mhm.
Because that's Yeah, so even if you don't have unlimited funds, you can still make different colors and patterns and all that look nice. My wife wanted certain things and I wanted certain things, but then we realized, like, okay, when all this comes together, like, how's it actually going to look? Um, so just managing your money and seeing where you want to put it. Like, our neighbors' houses all have different, same general house build, but different layouts, and it's
Hmm.
it's interesting to see what everybody decides to invest their money in their house, whether it's like the island, or do you not want carpet? Are you extending your driveway? Like, so many things. I mean, the baseboards, the crown molding,
Yeah.
it's the details can be overwhelming.
So, like, with you being in school, do you feel like there were some things that you were just like, I'm gonna stay away from that. I'm gonna let her make that decision, or were you like in it in the planning process?
We were in it as much as we could, but we were coming from Miami, so we would have to drive every time. So there was a couple occasions where she would have to handle things on her own, and there was a couple occasions where I had to do the same. But we made sure, obviously, we were both in communication via text, call, email, whatever, and showing pictures to see what everything looks like. And our house, I think, came out awesome.
I love that. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you fill in this blank for me. So it's a
Okay.
sentence and it starts with nobody told me that blank. So what's one thing that you wish someone would have shared with you?
To really read the contract, and that may or may not sound cliche, but the money exchange to buy a home should be so much easier. But the contract is what seems like hundreds of pages, and you're just like, where's all these numbers coming from? You have no idea. Um, all these fees, and it's like, for what? Like, okay, this person like, why can't I just pay this money, get the house? There's so many other parties involved, and I wish someone told us to, like, read and question all the fine print.
So, for those of you who are watching, I want to clarify that when you go new construction, if you're not working with an agent, you're doing everything with the builder directly. And I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend to be an attorney. So, when you're working with an agent and you're working with a builder, you must do your due diligence to read these contracts. You can work with a lawyer and have them review it with you as well. So, I love that he mentioned that because I think sometimes people get really excited, even if you're not a first time home buyer. Like the idea of new construction, you get so excited, and then the numbers and all of the things, fine print, kind of gets overwhelming, and people just start signing. They're like, just whatever, let me just sign this document. And I know this isn't for you. This is for someone that I was working with. They thought they were getting a home that had dual sinks, and they signed a document, and the document clearly shows that no, this unit doesn't have dual sinks in this guest bathroom. So we kept saying, "Hey, did you read this? This doesn't say dual sinks. Are you sure you're okay with this?" So luckily, the client actually reread that section because sometimes you just sign things, and if you submit it with the signature, that means you are agreeing to it. So it took us some time. She didn't get those dual sinks, but she was aware that what she thought it was and what it actually was not the case.
Yeah, I mean, and I actually have more to add as far as, like, you know really paying attention. So there and at our builder, they had something called the Hometown Heroes discount, right? So they would give you, I can't remember the dollar amount now, but it was supposed to be like somewhere around 15 grand you were supposed to get as like a credit towards a house. I had said, one, I was a veteran. Two, I was in nursing school, right? And our agent would say, you have to be like employed as a nurse, or I can't remember what the stipulation was, but like, I'm currently in the reserves, and that didn't qualify. After 10 plus years of service, that didn't qualify. And because I was in nursing school, that wasn't necessarily a hometown hero at the time. So um, that didn't count, which ended up being a slap in the face in the end. So that's another thing that was surprisingly bad in our case. There are a lot of surprisingly good things that we experienced too, but that was just an example of reading the contract. And we tried to fight it, but they it's the stipulation at the bottom said ask representative for details, and that was it. So they could have said anything to us. If we had a good agent or a nice agent who was happy that day, maybe they could have given it to us. But yeah, we missed out on that. And we ended up having a realtor friend help us out read our contract, and he helped us out with a little bit of stuff at the end, so that was good. I mean, nice resource to lean on during our process, even though we didn't use a lawyer to go over our contract prior to signing.
Love that. And this is just
Mhm.
like an idea of like real estate has so many avenues, right? And there's so many moving parts. And there's actually a team of people involved. So like I don't know if you knew when you went in for your pitch with the presentation, you were talking to one person and then after you get under contract, all of a sudden you have three, four, five other people calling you, contacting you, telling you, hey, you have appointments this day, this time. So at any point was there anything that surprised you with your timeline or something that you didn't expect or things that got moved up earlier than what you thought?
No, they were actually very good with the timeline. They basically told us by the time you get under contract, which is the first time you sign saying you're agreeing for them to like build this house in the first place, right? That's not closing, which we didn't know. But no, our builder was actually pretty accurate with the timeline. They told us by the time we sign, it's like 10 months or so,
Mhm.
and it was about that.
Guys, he got
So
like completely new construction. This isn't a spec home, which means like it's already built. Like they built from the ground up. So 10 months is about average for a new construction home. Okay, so tell me what was some wrong advice that was given to you? That could have been from ChatGPT, that could be from friend or family, that could be from Google. What was something that was completely off?
I don't know if we received any wrong advice. Um, everybody's going to tell you different things about buying a house, and all of it is probably true in their specific scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you can find a way to piece everybody's advice together, then it can work for you, right? But you have to remember that or write it down and get a list of all these things because you don't know what to ask. So it's important to listen to all these different people and just at least hear what they're telling you, maybe write it down because that could be a question later, and you won't know what questions to ask if you don't know. Like you I hate that saying, but you really don't know what you don't know. So
Mm-hmm.
hearing from all these people, um telling you about what went good or bad in their own situation, like it's something to at least bring up to your builder, your agent, and let them tell you, oh, that doesn't apply here, or yeah, it does apply. Good question.
Mm-hmm. And then I think you kind of touched on this, but were there any emotional parts of the journey that caught you off guard? Like, did you find yourself like feeling an emotion that you weren't expecting to feel at any point in the journey?
Um, I would say the biggest thing for us was when they told us that we didn't get the hometown hero discount because for the whole 10 months, we had multiple emails like asking our agent, like, hey, does this apply? We're just trying to make sure to get a yes or no answer. And she just gave us the same like robotic spiel every time, like, oh, you have to do this by the time you're under contract, then you get it. So but she never clearly said yes or no. She
Mm-hmm.
was just like, if you sign this, well, by the time you're under contract, then it applies. And we're like, okay, we don't know what that means. So we come to closing and she tells us that no, we went under contract 10 months ago. We were like, so why didn't you just tell us no?
Right.
um and that got kind of ugly for a second, but that's probably our biggest emotional bad emotional pitfall we had. I mean, we were excited about the
Mm-hmm.
house the whole time, and every time we go visit and see the progression of the build, I mean, we were more and more excited to live there. So that's the good side.
So it sounds like there was like a brief spurt of like disappointment because like a lack of clarity. Because maybe you
Huge.
guys could have prepared for that emotionally earlier on. And then clarification for those of you who are watching as well. There are tons of incentives from builders. Okay. Sometimes it feels like they're throwing money at you to buy the product. Um, and they're able to do that. But if it's not in writing clearly, like exactly what Dave said, like an email didn't clarify yes or no, that's kind of like a tactic, right? So if it's in the contract, they must abide by the contract. So if the contract says that they get that additional monies at closing, it doesn't matter how long it took them to build the house, the contract still applies. So that's why it's so important when you look at those details, or if you're working with a real estate agent, that anything that was agreed upon verbally is in writing, signed, and acknowledged by all parties, because unfortunately, yes, I know you love your house and I'm very happy that you love your house. But every time you probably see an advertisement for Hometown Heroes, I can understand a possible cringe. But you're able to help someone else that when this Hometown Heroes does run out if you are getting it from the state or anyone local.
Mhm.
Sometimes builders have incentives in house that they are able to provide, and they put Hometown Heroes on it. Okay, so I just want to clarify that too. Like there are separate pots of money that may have similar names, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Um,
and also don't be afraid to shop around.
mm,
Even during the process, like if you wanted a different lender or a different whatever, do that because you kind of develop like some loyalty. You feel like the agent is treating you nice or the lender is talking to you nice, but they just want your money. You know, they're telling you, oh, you get this $5,000 discount. You're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. You know, and so you don't talk to anybody else. But then as the moment you call somebody else, they're like, whoa, like we'll give you this deal. You know,
yeah.
you get this much back. You'll get money back. And so we didn't think to do that until the very end
Hmm.
after we dealt with the hometown heroes thing, and we got a significantly better deal. Like the
Love
first
that.
lender was upset, yeah, but nobody's gonna care for us like we do, you know.
It's
So
your investment.
right,
Absolutely.
right.
I'm so happy you
They
said
just want their
shopping
paycheck.
around.
Hmm.
I'm, some of them actually care, but some of them
Son,
are
you're right.
sharks. There are some
You're
sharks
right.
out here. And I think something that you mentioned that's important, worth noting, is a lot of these builders, not all of them, but most of them, they're giving you these incentives because they want you to go with their in house lender or whoever they have an agreement or relationship with. And I think when you are working with, and I'm only going to vouch for real estate agents because I am one, right? So when you're working with a real estate agent, if they're a good agent, they're going to question from the very beginning, do we have to go with your in house lender to get these incentives? Because I've seen situations where the in house lender can't qualify. And it's not that you're not qualified, it's just that that specific lender doesn't have a loan program available. So if you have the resources from that real estate agent, they should be able to connect you with someone else who can find a better option for you. So that's something that I feel like we don't talk about enough as like real estate agents to people who are interested in buying a home, is that there's tons of programs out here, and some people are better fit for you as a lender than others. Like I had a conversation with a gentleman who he was denied from the builder, but he went to a broker and they shop around for rates essentially, and they shop around for the best deal, and he qualified with the broker. So he almost didn't get a house because he
Hmm.
didn't qualify with the builder's reps. So it's kind of like saying, if it's something that you really want, don't be afraid to have those conversations and be honest about, like, this is what I want, is there any way for you to make this happen for me?
Yeah, you got to ask the questions, but you don't know what you don't know. So it's good to listen to things like this to find out what you may not know.
I love it. And I think hearing people's journeys too, right? Like, you're in a new construction home, like you're probably where somebody thinks is their last stop, and that is your first stop. Like even though you guys were living in a property before, like, which, if I'm not mistaken, you guys use that as an investment, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, just knowing that you don't have to sell a home in order to get into another home. There's other ways for you to keep properties in your possession and purchase something else. Like,
Right.
I think there's this false idea like you have to get rid of something to get something else. And it's like, no, there's leverage. Like, certain things can count as income, certain things can count as your years of service on top of you being in school. Like, having a conversation with a good lender, they should have been able to clarify, like, hey, this counts because it's in alignment with what your job is.
Hmm.
So I think it's really important to just speak with people who are knowledgeable about what's available, just resources. Maybe it may not be the best fit for you, but knowing what all the resources are so you can kind of like process of elimination it. And as we are getting ready to close out, I have two more things left for you. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, which was it's essentially a hidden cost because you weren't expecting that extra 15 grand. But were there anything or was there anything else specifically that stood out to you that you were like, yo, I did not know I had to pay for this, like a fee of some sort or after or a warranty? Is there anything that kind of you're like, hey, no, people need to know about this?
Hmm. I think escrow is something that nobody really talks about. You hear the word, it sounds like something you say. I'd never use the word ever, right? But just knowing like what that means and what goes into it and what you're paying into, I mean, that's huge. Like, maybe yours covers your property insurance, maybe yours covers your home insurance. I don't know. It's something we're still learning about too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think everybody's escrow is the same. So, or works the same. Again,
It
something we're still
should.
learning about.
Yeah, it should.
Maybe.
So
Again, no idea.
I do want to touch on that too, because that's a really good point in new construction specifically, because your home, when you first got it, it assessed for the dirt price. And when they build a house, then the assessed price goes up, which means the value goes up. So you've been putting in money. Let's think of escrow as like a piggy bank. And this is not
Right.
just, this is for my people watching. So you have this piggy bank and it's called escrow. And that piggy bank is you're putting money in from your monthly payment that you send every month for your mortgage. You're putting money in to cover your taxes and insurance. So when your taxes and insurance are due, 9 times out of 10, your taxes, for the most part, they go up and down. Mostly they go up. So there's some fluctuation there, but they're going to pay your taxes. And if you're short, they want their money back. So what
Hmm.
happens to your mortgage? Your mortgage is going to go up, or you're going to cut them a check for the difference for what it was short. And in new construction, a lot of the times people are not prepared for the taxes going up. So now they're getting a bill that their mortgage is going up 4, 5, $600, and that people don't know why, and it's because their escrow is short. So what we always advise people to do is if you have like extra funds, instead of you spending it on something frivolous, maybe put that towards your escrow or pay towards your principal so that way you're not getting hit with these surprise expenses when taxes are due. Another big one is with your insurance. Every year we advise like shop around, see who's giving you a better rate. Like everybody's trying to get you to come through their door. So there's some type of incentive or some deal for the year. Don't just stick with your insurance company just because you've been with them for 15 years. Like shop around to see if you can get a better deal. So yes, escrow is a big one with new construction. So I'm happy you said that. Anything else you could think of? Hidden cost?
What other hidden costs? No, the property taxes is crazy too. That's another one. And you're right that all the taxes do just go up every year. Hopefully, Florida puts that thing in where it won't get rid of Florida of property taxes, but it'll help Florida homesteaders a lot.
Correct.
Um,
Fingers crossed, guys.
I don't know. Yeah, I
That
don't.
that'll change the game.
I don't know. It all just felt like hidden fees. I mean, the insurances, it's it's crazy. But we're in the house. We love it. You know, we're happy we made the decision.
So I'm hearing that even though there is a lot of numbers involved, you're happy with the decision to invest in this part of life.
Yeah, yeah. There's again, there's pros and cons to everything. Not one thing's all good or all bad. Can I have
Hmm.
I actually have a quick story.
Yeah.
So we kept our old house and used it as an investment property, but we have neighbors who sold their house and bought the new one. And granted, they're doing a little bit more to their house faster because they have the capital, right? They sold their old house, so they have that extra money laying around, so they can, do the closet builds or whatever. And
Hmm.
for us, it'll take us a little longer to do everything we want to the house, but now we have that little piggy bank that's not a bank. We don't have to ask somebody for a loan. We don't have to apply for a new card or whatever. We have equity in this other house, so we can
Hmm.
use that to, pay down debt, go on vacation, whatever the case is. It's essentially our money, and that can be something that is left for the kids later on. Maybe we can sell it when we want to retire. A lot of different options, and no, nothing is right or wrong. It's just, what's best for your situation at the time.
Absolutely. And knowing like what's important to you because the
Yeah,
plan's only going to make sense if it's important to you.
right.
And then the last one, and I feel like you touched on it briefly, but what is something like if you can talk to the version of you guys when you first started this process? Like if you could go back in time on some quantum, I don't know if it's called quantum leap, but whatever. You go back in time and you're looking at yourselves and what would you tell? What would you tell that version of you guys?
Probably just save more money if we knew we were going to buy the house at the time, which I didn't. Right, I went into the whole thing completely like, I'm just going to listen and we're just going to go home, have dinner, and that's it. But then I went, heard the story and or heard the spiel, and I was like, I guess we're doing it. Um, and it was just really just kind of a spur of the moment decision. But if we were better prepared, maybe it would have made things easier. We could have done more to the house initially, whatever. But again, we're in, we got it. So all that stuff we can do later on when we have more funds.
I feel like we're gonna have to revisit this conversation in like a couple years because like there's some dynamics there, right? Like you guys have kids, and some people like when they sell their house, like maybe they're empty nesters, so that extra cash flow is coming in because they don't have those things. So let's revisit it later because I feel like I don't think you can ever save enough money for this. If it's your first house, I don't think there's like this ideal number that you can get to.
There isn't.
But so it's like I think the big thing is that you decided to take the chance and do it because no matter where you go, you're gonna have to make it work, right? But at least you
Hmm.
guys are in an area that you love that most people will probably like gawk over because you guys live in a beautiful area and it's something that you guys have built together. And I think a lot of people who are like nervous or on the fence about purchasing a home, they're freaking out about the numbers. And at the end of the day, like you're sacrificing something for a quality lifestyle. So would you say that you guys are having a quality lifestyle right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. And I feel like our process overall was fairly simple. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of things we didn't understand, but pretty simple. It was kind of shocking how smooth it was for us, but we understand it. It may not be like that for everybody. They built countless new homes, thousands probably, I'm sure, and I'd be curious to see how many people couldn't close.
Mm, yeah.
Or so. I mean, we were as prepared as we needed to be at the time. Thankfully, and it worked out for us. We're aware it doesn't work out for everybody, but um, yeah, preparation definitely would wouldn't hurt.
I love it.
Hmm.
I appreciate you taking time to talk to the people. I know we didn't talk about it fully, but Dave did mention earlier that he is a veteran, so that means he used the VA loan. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we
So
can
there,
dig into that real quick too. Like,
can you just lead the people with like
sure.
why VA loan? Why did you go that route?
So the VA loan is typically one of the better options. At least and I'm going to be biased being a veteran, um, but it helped us with our interest rate, which is good, and it still helps us with the interest rate, right? Because every year there's like the, I don't know, VAIRRRL or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. It can reduce your interest rate every year, or maybe even every 6 months. You just got to call and see. But that's a nice advantage over the other home loans. The one thing that so that's where it helped us, but it didn't help us because typically with the VA loan, you don't have to put a down payment. But for us, and being a new construction, we had to put a deposit down for the lot we wanted anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of like the down payment. So we did have to come up with a lot of money to put down, to secure the lot, and that would essentially played as our down payment. And there was no way the VA loan was going to compensate for that. So they can't just say, "Hey, we want this corner lot here. You can just
No
envelop the
money.
cost." And yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't the case. We
Mm-hmm.
got a nice lot. We got a corner lot. We're in front of a lake, like, so. I mean, we did good with that. But the VA loan was good for our interest rate and will continue to be good for our interest rate. So that's, for us, that's the benefit of having it.
And thank you for pointing that out because I think people get scared of new construction. And it's not that you can't do it, it's just that it just looks a little different if you go that route. And that money that they put down on the lot, if you buy a house that's already built, that same money is going into the purchase price of the home. So it's
Hmm.
not that that money disappears, they just find a way to move it on the back end some way. So thank you for pointing that out. It's like you don't sign up and you just walk into the house for free. Like
Right.
there's some cost that's inquired, but it's dirt and you're investing in the area. So it's I think what I'm hearing the most from this conversation is financially, there's going to be some things that may catch people off guard, but if you're understanding where the money's going, it's worth it for you.
Or even where the money's coming from. You have to
Uh,
know, like, okay, you need to know where it's coming from or how you're going to
Yeah,
move it
that's
to
a good
make it
one.
work. Yeah.
I love it. So I
Hmm.
appreciate you for taking time to share with my audience about being a first time home buyer. I appreciate you being transparent about getting caught off guard with some of these things. And then keeping it real, like home ownership is not for everyone. So if you're not committed to the journey, it can be extremely stressful and it can be discouraging. But you got to remember why you're doing it. If you remember what the purpose is and you stick to that, it'll be worth it in the end.